Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thank you so much for joining us here on a Sunday after the Bengals fell 27-3 on the road at Soldier Field to the Chicago Bears, week 2 of the NFL preseason. And on today's show, we're going to be breaking down some winners and losers from the Bengals preseason week 2 loss to the Bears. This is what we're going to be doing pretty much after every game. We're going to provide our instant reaction. Of course, that video was out very shortly after that game concluded yesterday. Then the following day, we'll typically put out our winners and losers list and kind of break down some of the guys that we saw out there and put them in either a winner or loser category. But before we fully dive into today's show, I want to ask you guys, did you watch yesterday's game? I get it. It's a Saturday, middle of the day, preseason game. Ultimately means nothing. Starters weren't playing. So be honest with me in the comments section. Did you watch yesterday's game? Or even better yet, were you with us for our live stream watch party here at Bengals Breakdown? But let us know in the comments section. Trying to get over 100 comments on this video. And the person that comments the most actually will get a shout out in a later video sometime this week. So help us out. Get those comments in now. Did you watch yesterday's game? We'll start with the winners. We'll start with the positive side of things for Cincinnati. We've talked about him a lot on this show. Maema Njongmeta, the undrafted free agent linebacker out of Wisconsin that the Bengals signed, and he yet again had a really good game for Cincinnati. Was really looking for him to kind of back up that performance from last week against the Buccaneers at home, and I thought he certainly did that. I thought, he really was involved, had 8 tackles, as you can tell here, and really was just flying around making plays. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but boy, is he physical. And he's really got a good football IQ, and he seems to be in the right place at the right time for the Bengals. And it looks like the Bengals got him a little steal here as far as an undrafted free agent goes. And I do believe, said it several times here recently, but I do believe he will find his way onto the Bengals 53-man roster. Director of Player Personnel Duke Tobin was actually in the booth with Anthony Munoz during this preseason game for the Bengals. And he just had a very short and sweet quote about Njongmeta, but still powerful nonetheless. He said, "He is not afraid to hit, and that is what you have got to be as a linebacker." Now, also, the 5th linebacker on an NFL team has to be able to play special teams, right? There's been some debate. Will the Bengals take 4? Will they take 5? I think they take 5, and I think Njongmeta is that guy. And he's going to have to be able to play on special teams. And that's something that we saw him do really well yesterday against the Bears. He was flying around out there, made some tackles, had a big hit on special teams. So it looks like he's going to be able to go out there and be a piece for Darren Simmons' unit. And that's something that is very significant. Because, again, if you're going to be that 5th linebacker, you got to have that versatility to be able to go out there and compete on special teams. And Njongmeta proved yesterday that he has that. That leads us to the pinned comment of today's show. Will Maema Njongmeta make the Bengals roster? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Type A for yes or B for no. It is the pinned comment, like I said, of today's show. So that ad comes here on YouTube. That's fine. Take advantage of it. Get down there and let us know what you think. Our second winner is rookie wide receiver Jermaine Burton. And Burton's role was a little bit different for Cincinnati yesterday. Only had 1 catch, albeit a first down on a 3rd down for the Bengals, and it was a big catch. But the thing that stood out to me about Burton was his play on special teams as a returner. He had 2 kick returns yesterday for 29 yards a pop for a total of 58 yards. So he really did a good job returning kicks, also returned a couple of punts as well. Had a good return on one of the punts, but then it got called back due to a penalty. But I really wasn't expecting this at all, but I'm totally here for this as far as Jermaine Burton being a returner for Cincinnati. There is some, question marks in that field in terms of Charlie Jones not being 100%. And, of course, yesterday Trenton Irwin wasn't playing, so that's another guy that's back there doing a lot of returns. Chris Evans going to be out for the year. He was another potential candidate. Travion Williams did play, and he's certainly gotten a lot of return work in the past. But, again, wasn't expecting this from Burton, but I'm here for this. And it's an easy way to work him into getting some playing time, right? He's a really sure-handed guy. Don't believe he had many drops at all, if any, at Alabama during his college career. So you want to have a sure-handed guy back there, and I was kind of surprised as I was watching it happen. I was like, why hasn't anyone talked about this before? Like, this is brilliant. And yeah, so I'm really excited to see how this transpires. Again, it might not be something we see in the regular season, but just the fact he's out there getting reps and hopefully can build some trust with that coaching staff. And again, I thought he did a great job yesterday in that role. Again, this is what he's going to be competing against as far as trying to be a receiver out there for Cincinnati. I think at some point he's going to have a more significant role, right? We've talked about in the past, might be having a little trouble digesting the playbook, and they certainly will have some sub packages drawn up for him, and that will allow him to kind of ease his way into things. And again, being a returner will allow him to do that as well. So what is your one-word reaction to Burton returning kicks and punts? First word that comes to mind when you saw that out there yesterday afternoon in Chicago. Let us know what you think. Sound off for us in the comments of today's show. Another winner for Cincinnati, 7th-round pick center Matt Lee out of Miami. Played his last year of collegiate ball at Miami. Was at Central Florida prior to that. And he was a guy that didn't get in till late against Tampa Bay, and I was really hoping he would go out there and play a lot this week. And he played the whole game for Cincinnati at center, and I thought he did a good job. Just from, again, just the naked eye, I guess. You know, I'm sure Frank Pollock will have a kind of an evaluation on the different intricacies of offensive line play, but I thought to me he looked solid. And just the fact that the Bengals trusted him to go out there and play all game, I think shows a lot for a 7th-round rookie. Really happy with what I saw out of Matt Lee, and I think he just kind of vaulted himself into potentially making the roster. He's kind of competing with Trey Hill for that backup center spot, and Trey Hill was playing guard yesterday, so I think Matt Lee would have the edge in that regard, and I expect Matt Lee to make the Bengals 53-man roster when roster cut-down time comes a little bit later on down the road. I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks because today's show is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Here's a look at my flex play, my year-long flex play that we got going right here. Got Calvin Ridley more than 899.5 receiving yards, as well as T. Higgins over that same mark, and Cooper Kupp, hoping he can stay healthy. Obviously, former Triple Crown winner, really expecting a big season out of him. That's kind of what you're looking at as far as my flex play. We'll track that throughout the year, see how it goes. But big thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks for helping me get that out there. So download the Prize Picks apps today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. We'll keep it on the offensive line here with Jackson Kirkland. He was a guy that was a undrafted free agent in 2023 and spent, I believe, 10 games on the Bengals practice squad last year before injuring his wrist. So he's a guy, played his college ball at Washington, and he's got a lot of versatility, can really play everywhere on that line. He played a lot at left tackle yesterday for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they were pleased with what they got out of him. And I think that versatility that he brings, as well as Cody Ford, by the way, that he brings is really going to leave guys like Jackson Carman probably on the outside looking in. Offensive line, certainly a question. Trent Brown's health has been iffy. Amarius Mims was doing so well, and he's got that strained pec. So they're going to need guys like perhaps Kirkland or Cody Ford to step up for Cincinnati. I thought Kirkland played solid today, and he was kind of a fringe roster guy, but I think they have a lot of confidence in letting him into that 10-man offensive line room to start the season in 2024. So as we know, offensive line has been a big issue for the Bengals, particularly in the Joe Burrow era. So what is your confidence level in the Bengals offensive line? Go ahead and scale it for us in the comments section, 1 to 10. I was feeling really optimistic, and then the Amarius Mims injury happened, and I was like, oh, here we go again. We got these kind of backups that are thrust into duty. So let us know what you think in the comments section. Sound off for us. Scale it for us. 1 to 10. Our last winner is Cedric Johnson, edge rusher, 6th-round pick out of Ole Miss. Thought he played solid, and he's another guy competing for a roster spot on that defensive line for Cincinnati. And again, I thought he played really well on special teams for the Bengals. And when you're at the kind of the bottom of the roster, you got to be a guy that can go out there and compete on special teams. Big guy, but he's got some speed. So I was really kind of blown away with what Cedric Johnson did out there for Cincinnati, and I expect him to make the club for the Bengals. So those are my winners. Get it out. Go ahead and get in the comments and name a preseason Week 2 winner for me. Is it one of the 5 guys I mentioned? You got a new name you want to throw out there? I would love to hear it. Sound off for us in the comments of today's show. And the first loser for me is just the team as a whole, because they had 11 penalties for over 100 yards, 123 yards. Just unacceptable any way you slice it, right? I understand it's a preseason game. I understand you got guys out there that aren't going to be out there during the regular season. But as a football team, when you take the field and give up over 100 yards in penalties, it's just a bad look, and quite frankly, it's unacceptable. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway from a negative standpoint, was this team just keeps getting penalties. I mean, every kick would go up, holding, blocking the back, whatever. And not good. Obviously, something that needs to get corrected. Hopefully, that gets a little bit more cleaned up for Thursday night's game this week. So we'll keep an eye on that. But 123 yards, unacceptable. Okay, I had to put Logan Woodside on this loser list. And I don't love doing this, because I thought he really showed a lot of good things in terms of his toughness out there. Took some big shots, and he did some stuff on 3rd down, was able to convert. Did a nice job scrambling around in the pocket, using his legs, extending plays, showed off his arms. So there were some good things, but a lot of the hits that he took were kind of self-inflicted. Here's what Paul Dehner Jr. put out, and this is what Zac Taylor exactly had to say. He said Zac Taylor, after the game, not thrilled with the offense's inability to pick up the nickel pressure off the edge. Taylor said, the same nickel pressure 4 times in a row, 4 times they got us. That cannot happen. If you watch the game, you saw Woodside take some wicked hits, but as Coach Taylor said, there would just be a nickel coming flying off the edge. Nobody would block him, and he would just absolutely drill Logan Woodside. And he got hit in the face one time. His helmet kind of popped off a little bit, and then the other he got drilled as he was throwing, and that ended up being an interception, as the Bengals kind of had a good drive going up to that point. So that's something that Joe Burrow, you would never see Joe Burrow just get hit like that off an edge that's of a guy that's unblocked. Quarterback's got to be able to audible into the right protection and make sure that doesn't happen. So lots of people to blame for that, but ultimately the quarterback has to sign off on making sure he has the right protection before that ball is snapped. So name a preseason Week 2 loser for us in the comments section. Would love to know what you think. Obviously, the Bengals only scored 3 points, and it was a pretty ugly game. So probably several people you can choose from, but let us know in the comment section of today's video. Also had to put Ryan Rico on this list. Rico was a guy, of course, in a punting competition with Brad Robbins. He really had a chance to go out there and say, you know what, I'm the guy for Cincinnati, and he just really didn't do that throughout the game. He had a couple good kicks. Got fortunate with a bounce on one of them as well. But overall, I think Brad Robbins is very much still in this competition despite the fact he is hurt. Here's what Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic said about Ryan Rico. I thought he did a great job of just kind of breaking this down. So here's exactly what the quote from Paul Dehner Jr. said. He said his first 2 punts were poor, the first only going 42 yards in the air with a minimal hang time, 3.51 seconds via True Media. The second ended up at a 56-yard punt, but only by the box score because it hit way short with just 3.49 seconds of hang time, although with a favorable roll. He also hit a 43-yarder on a line later in the game. It got returned 17 yards thanks to how quickly it got on the returner, 3.35 seconds. There were a few that resembled the booming leg that we've seen from Rico in camp, and he did pinch Chicago at the 10 with an attempt from midfield, but this didn't live up to the opportunity presented. So Ryan Rico is very much still in this competition, but this thing's going to go down to the wire, and if Rico can't really pull ahead, they might go with Robbins just because he was there last year. But we'll see how long it takes Robbins to come back from his injury. Last loser here on this list is Jackson Carman. I know it feels like we're kind of beating a dead horse here with Carman, but the fact that they went to so many guys before him in this game says a lot. I think there was only around 10-ish minutes left in the game when Carman first made an appearance for the Bengals. So that kind of shows you how the coaching staff feels. The trust isn't there. Obviously, the performance on the field hasn't been there either, and I would be surprised to see him make the Bengals team. Feels like he's on the outside looking in. Hopefully he can find a fresh start somewhere else and maybe revive his career a little bit, but it appears as though his days in Cincinnati are certainly numbered at this point. Make sure you guys are subscribed to our channel here at Bengals Breakdown. We'll have another watch party for you guys coming up on Thursday night, so really looking forward to some primetime Bengals football again. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV.